This is question number 5 from the homework on section 2.1. I'm going to work it twice. We've been asked to multiply 14 over 33 times 3/4. There are two ways you can work it. One way I worked a whole lot in the fraction review, and then there's the way that they're doing it in Help Me Solve This and View an Example. We are doing the same process, we're just approaching it in a different way. So the way we talked about it in the fraction review was that when it is multiplication, we can reduce our fractions on the diagonals before we multiply. So right here, I have 14 and 4, and I look at those and they are both even numbers. So I know I can divide both of them by a 2. If I divide this by a 2, I get a 2. If I divide this by a 2, I get a 7. Okay. Now on the other diagonal, I have 3 and 33, and it's fairly obvious that both of these are divisible by 3. If I divide this by 3, I get a 1. If I divide this by 3, I get 11. Now we can multiply across with the numbers we have left. 7 times 1 over 11 times 2, and that will give me 7 over 22. And if you've done all your cancellations on the diagonals, this should be in lowest terms and it will be your answer. Okay, so what did the computer, the people who wrote the examples, Help Me Solve This, how did they approach this? Well, they used the definition of multiplication of fractions that says you can multiply straight across. So 14 times 3 will give you 42. And 33 times 4 gives you 132. And now they want us to reduce this. Okay? Now, if you happen to recognize that both of these are divisible by 6, that would be your greatest common factor. That's what they are recognizing and what they are dividing with. I do not want you to worry about finding the greatest common factor. What you can do is if you see any factor, don't worry about it being the largest one. If you see any factor, go ahead and divide by that and see how your numbers get smaller. And as your numbers get smaller, you'll probably get better at it. So these are both even numbers. So if I divide both of these by a 2, what I get is 21 over 66. Now, what you want to do here is look to see if there's anything else that divides into these two. 21, the only things that divide evenly into 21 are 3 and 7 and 21. So what I might want to do is to check to see if one of those works here. It turns out that 3 does. One of the rules for deciding whether or not something is divisible by 3 is to add your digits together. 2 plus 1 is 3. 6 plus 6 is 12. And then ask yourself, well, does 3 divide evenly into 3? Yes. After you add the digits together, if 3 divides into what you have, 3 divides into the whole thing. So 3 does divide evenly into 21. 3 divides evenly into 12, so 3 divides evenly into 66. So divide both by 3. And again, you get 7 over 22. With multiplication and multiplication alone, you can cancel on the diagonal, get smaller numbers, then multiply and get your answer in lowest terms. Or I tend to think of this as more the brute force method. You can go ahead and multiply everything, so you've got the fraction part taken care of, you just need to reduce it. Again, don't worry about dividing both by the GCF. You don't have to worry about finding the greatest common factor. Yes, it will get you there in one step, but don't stress about that. Do what you see until you get something you cannot reduce anymore, and you're going to be fine.